A few months ago, my mate and channel member Nigel Chappo gave me an ironbark post from his farm and a challenge. 90 days to just get restarted. You see, post-fatherhood 2 years ago, I've had precious little shed time and Nigel noticed. So to give me a kick up the bum, he literally flew this thing across from South Australia. But reading his letter, I reflected on the fact that a lot of the Australian maker community had been quiet, so I decided to extend his invitation to the wider group of makers, and the ChappoChallenge25 was born. Now, 90 days was technically about 2 weeks ago. The original design idea for floating shelves got reworked, and even my plan to donate 100% of the income from the Chappo Challenge to support the Gradually Wizardly family as Phil fights bowel cancer has not come to pass. I'll explain that a bit later. For now, let's pick up where we left the intro video off and wrangle this concrete hard fence post into some family memory shelves. And most importantly, enjoy some shed time. And straight off the bat, we hit a challenge in the challenge. That tiny difference between the kerf of my old blade and my new blade was binding up like no tomorrow. Fortunately, it was a simple fix. I had to get rid of the brand new blade and go back to the old one. Luckily, this little CTS saw stop is a beast. Ironbark is one of the hardest timbers you could ever hope to work with, and the rip blade just went through it almost without noticing. Yes, I took many passes to get through things, but that's just good practice anyway. Lack of material was certainly another part of this challenge that was challenging. I worked out I had just enough to get 3 decently thick shelves, and I was only going to need 2 of them. The third one would be cut in half to increase the width. And here, look carefully as that goes through the blade. Look at the tension in that wood and how the offcut piece literally curved away. That resulted in this. I didn't have parallel sides, I had a big bow, and that was going to be, well, problematic because I do not own a jointer. I tried my best with the hand plane, but the concrete hard timber fought me every single millimeter. At the end of the day, I think I got it close enough, but we're going to have to use some dowels to reinforce this joint. So each shelf would be approximately 1.5 pieces of post wide. They're about 25mm or an inch thick, and I had intended to floating mount them, but this probably wasn't going to happen. I'm not a massive fan of working with dowels, but as I don't have a biscuit jointer or a domino, and I certainly didn't want misaligned boards because trying to even them out would be a nightmare, dowels seemed like the best and only option that I had. This is not going to be a pocket hole project. But if you'd like to watch 7 hours of Kreg Gear and Pocket Hole Project, well, I've got your weekend covered. Video didn't do too well, sadly. Bit of a big ask for people, maybe. But if you do need some workshop companion stuff, do check it out. You'd be doing me a big favour. I didn't have enough dowel pins, so I had to move them across one by one, leaving the reference in the middle. Not ideal, but it worked. I still love my tiny little Bosch drill press. No, it's not the most powerful unit in the world, but for what I need it for, it gets the job done. I also still need more clamps. Always need more clamps. But without too much hassle, my 2 shelves were all glued up, and that gave me some time while it dried to think about the next step. This is probably completely unnecessary, but Nigel also gave me this nice little piece of cherry, which then proceeded to split as badly as you can currently see it. I wanted to incorporate it somehow, and there were also some splits in the ironbark. So, this is a challenge, and I thought I would challenge myself by doing bow ties for the first time. Hand-cut bow ties. Potentially unnecessary, but something I've always wanted to do, and this was a lovely excuse. Remember, the Chappo Challenge is all about enjoying yourself, so we might as well have some fun, even if it could end in disaster. I wouldn't recommend following my milling procedure for the cherry, but we got there in the end. Waste not, want not. Speaking of disasters,
Jointer required. There is daylight through both of them. However, there should be enough glue and the dowels should hold them. They're only shells, no one's going to be looking at them that closely. But yeah, that's rustic. Let's call it rustic. They look fine. They're fine.
Daylight aside, the shelves were looking okay. So a quick hand plane to get them nice and evened out, and that did work very well. The dowels had done their job, followed by a quick sand, which was kind of pointless as I'd have to do it again later, and docking them to final length. Now I said I was going to hand cut the bow ties, but I'm not actually hand cutting the bow ties, I'm going to hand cut the mortises for them. This is definitely not a laser tutorial, but needless to say, even though the S140 watt is an awesome machine and very, very powerful, thank you X-Tool, it struggled with 12mm thick, hard cherry solid wood. I eventually got them out, but they were inconsistent, shall we say, and I had to rescue a few of them with the block plane. Which actually worked kind of well. The charring was so bad on the multiple passes, they ended up being a trapezoid shape, as in one side was fatter than the other side. This actually worked in my favour, because when I go to insert them later on, they'll be slightly narrower at the bottom and slightly wider at the top, and that taper helps you get a better fit. That's my excuse and I'm sticking to it. Honestly, if I was going to do this again, I would just use a rounded type bow tie, where the laser could then also cut me a template that I wouldn't have to then hand cut out all of this detail too. But we were having fun, I enjoyed the process, and it was a learning experience, as we said. I used my old beaded chisels, which are nice and sharp, but they were just there to mark out the edges before setting the depth of the bow tie with a Forstner bit at the drill press. And then cleaning up as close to the line as I dared with the little palm router. To do the final finesse work, I originally broke out my Narex chisels. I've had them for 2 years, and they were pretty sharp out of the box, and they taught me something very quickly. I only bothered to strop them, and then very quickly I reverted back to my very cheap chisels. Because I didn't have time to sharpen them properly, and a sharp, cheap chisel is better than a blunt, very expensive chisel. Keep that in mind. I'm sure these will be lovely once I get around to sharpening them properly, but at the moment my focus was on getting this project done. And the old Stanleys, they did a great job. I very much enjoyed this process. Just a lot of finessing backwards and forwards, tappity-tappity with the thwacker, until I got myself what I believe was a reasonable fit, put the narrow end in, and then sent them home. Were they perfect? Hell no. But I was still very proud of them, and I did get better, and that is the whole point. One of them is particularly atrocious, but this whole thing has a fairly rustic feel to it. And at least all of my steps made sense to me, and did work to the limit of my skill. The mortises were slightly shallower, so I could then grab out the hand plane and smooth them down to the perfect height. And they came out alright. I like them. I'd do it again. Maybe. Not in ironbark. But with the shelves coming along, that left me with a bit of a problem. I couldn't figure out a nice way to float mount these shelves, so I said bugger it. Nigel's also sent me over another little piece of fence post, which I was going to cut on the table saw and then with the giant chunk of metal through it, thought better. But I would use that to make the stays. A couple of little wooden brackets for each shelf to hold it up. Should look nice. So we quickly repeated the milling process, and ended up with 4 even little blocks, which I just eyeballed an angle that looked aesthetically pleasing before using my Vip and bevel gauge to transport that over to the miter station. and set up a dodgy clamping jig because these pieces are way too small to be cutting on a miter saw. But I think it was pretty safe in the end, and they all came out beautifully. I even had some left over, which turned out to be fortuitous. We'll chamfer all the things later, but for the moment that was looking pretty nice. So if I couldn't float mount them, what I'm going to do instead is use keyholes. 2 screws into the wall, hook the shelves over via the keyholes, and they're not taking that much weight. These should be fine. A tip when using your keyhole router bit, particularly on these small parts which are too small for the router table, drill out the pilot hole at your drill press first, and then you've done most of the work for the cut already. That'll save you doing a dodgy plunge cut like me, and perhaps pay extra attention when you set up your stop blocks or the start and finish position, that you don't then push the piece through backwards and ruin one of them, fortunately having the leftovers to make a replacement.
Idiots.
This was a bit sketchy. The bit was completely covered inside the timber, so I wasn't worried about my fingers, but you can see that the hole around my router bit is too big to be safely doing this. You see the back corner drops down just that tiny bit, and they weren't the cleanest. Didn't matter at the end, but if I had my time again, I'd probably think of a better way to do this. P.S. Check out that dust on my arms and hands. Ugh, fine stuff. Now it's time to chamfer all the things. I'm going to a couple of the edges of the brackets. And then while I've got the giant chamfer bit, I'll just take it out of the table and use the entire plate to put a nice deep chamfer 45 on the underside of the leading edge of the shelf to make Mark feel good on the inside. Don't measure when you don't have to, no tape measures here. Just got an offcut that looked about the right size and use that to mark out the drill hole positions. Then I'm just going to come in straight through the top. Again, there was probably a better way of doing this with traditional joinery, but time was low, and quite frankly, I like using plugs. So some wood glue and CA glue held them temporarily in place. I could then clamp them down and take about 5 or 6 passes through this iron-hard bloody wood to drill the holes for the screws and the plugs, and they weren't going anywhere. But we'd need some plugs, and rather than complementary, I used the last tiniest bits of cherry so that they would instead match the bow ties. I just super glued the small pieces to a scrap block, and that worked very well. We all use screws to spread glue, right? Highly effective. Check out this. Yeah, that was the bad bow tie. That one's gappy as hell. Ah well. Cracks in there anyway. Who cares? I'm glad I went with the plugs. They ended up looking really, really nice next to the bow ties. And there are me 2 shelves. And for the first time ever, I'm going to say that my choice of finish was a mistake. Now, this is not the fault of Scotty's Custom Grit. It's a brilliant product and I use it all the time. It's just not the right product for what I am doing here. Ignoring my own crappy joinery gaps, this timber is also reclaimed and full of veins and pockets and a few of other things too, and using a solid paste-like finish was not the right choice. I should have had an oil that was going to soak into those gaps instead of trying to buff this on the surface. But hey, it came out alright anyway. They were ready to hang. But before we do, let's talk about your butt. Get your bum checked. Now, I had promised Phil that all the proceeds from these videos for the Chappo Challenge would go to him and his family, but being the overly kind bastard that he is, he told me not to. December is Beard-tember, a fundraiser run by Bowel Cancer Australia, links below to read all about it, and they have been supporting him, and he would like to support them. So, I am going to give Phil the money from the first launch video, but any of the proceeds from this particular video are going to go to Bowel Cancer Australia instead. Thank you, Phil. If you would also like to help out, then I would encourage you to check out the links below. And if you do want to help Phil directly, then some of these Dainer-made check squares are still available on Mark's website. Thank you to everyone in the community who contributed. Speaking of the community contributors, the playlist for the Chappo Challenge is also linked below. I managed to drag a few makers who had not seen the YouTube light of day for many a month back onto your screens, so go and enjoy their fresh content. And just like me, if you are a little bit late, absolutely no troubles. Keep on tagging ChappoChallenge25 and I will keep on adding the videos to the playlist for future watching. These are simple shells, but I had an awfully great time in the workshop making them. Thank you, Nige, so much for the kick up the bum. This was very enjoyable, and wifey loves them too, which is the important part. They will house some of our best family memories, and the old farm post gets a second life. I'm calling this a win all round. Cheers all, catch you on the next one.